This is the story of a Chinese city of fewer than 1 million people that makes half the world's eyeglass lenses, and of the Eyewear company that spent 40 years cornering the market before losing roughly 40% of its value in 9 months. A claim circulating online says China's $3 glasses killed a $165 billion American monopoly, and 2 pieces of that claim collapse the moment anyone checks them. The company at the center of it owns nothing American, and it has not died. Everything else holds up because the $3 is real, the empire is real, and the collapse is very real. Goggles for You ran a promotion in February of 2026, pricing full prescription glasses, frame, and lens together at $3.95, dropping to roughly $2.92 with a discount code. Zenni Optical has sold complete prescription pairs from $6.95 for years, and November of 2025 brought Black Sheep into the United States, advertising prescription glasses as low as $4. Consumers' checkbook pegs EssilorLuxottica frames at about $300 to several $1,000s per pair. $2.92 sits at one end of that spread, several thousand at the other, for a product doing the identical job on your face. Danyang sits in Jiangsu province in eastern China, and with fewer than 1 million residents, it counts as a small city. 400 million spectacle lenses leave it every year, roughly 75% of China's national output, and about half of every lens on Earth. 1,600 companies operate there, employing more than 50,000 people, while the city also turns out over 100 million pairs of frames annually and serves as Asia's largest eyewear distribution center. Wholesale listings from Chinese manufacturers place metal, acetate, and TR90 frames between $1.50 and $8.50 per unit. Nationally, China produced 242 million spectacle frames in 2024, close to 48% of global output. 89% of American sunglasses imports and 72% of American plastic frame imports came from China, according to the Vision Council in August of 2025. That explains the cheap end. The expensive end traces to another small town. Leonardo del Vecchio launched Luxottica in 1961 out of Agordo in the Italian Alps, where frames still came from mountain goat horns, starting out as a contract manufacturer making metal eyeglass parts for other companies. A New York listing in 1990 handed him capital, and he spent it acquiring. Lens crafters came in 1995, reportedly for $1.4 billion, delivering direct access to more than 700 optical stores, then Ray-Ban out of Bausch & Lomb in 1999 for $640 million, followed by Sunglass Hut in 2001. Del Vecchio was never simply collecting labels. He was buying the shelves those labels sit on. Oakley is the case that pushed people toward the word monopoly. A pricing dispute in the early 2000s ended with Luxottica pulling Oakley from its stores, and financial writer Brett Aarons described the aftermath on 60 Minutes as a collapse in Oakley's stock price. $2.1 billion is what Luxottica paid for the company in 2007, an 18% premium over its recent share price. When Leslie Stahl put that sequence to chief executive Andrea Guerra, he conceded there had been issues in the early 2000s, but insisted both sides came to understand cooperation served them better. That segment aired on October 7, 2012, and Guerra gave the line that measures the empire best. Quote, "At least 500 million are wearing our glasses now," end quote. January of 2017 brought a merger with French lens giant Essilor, valued at nearly $49 billion, and October of 2018 named the combined business EssilorLuxottica. Here the viral framing hits its first wall, because Essilor is French, Luxottica is Italian, and the merged company runs from Paris on the CAC 40 index, having never been American. You have probably heard that this company controls 80% of eyewear. Snopes chased that figure and came up empty, because the trail led to contributor posts rather than staff reporting, with no clean baseline for comparison against thousands of independent optometrists and retailers like Costco and Walmart. What survives scrutiny is smaller. Bloomberg pegged the combined company at about 27% of global eyewear when the deal closed. with next largest competitor Johnson & Johnson at 3.9%. 27% falls short of a monopoly, but when your closest rival holds under 4%, and you also own Lens Crafters, Sunglass Hut, Pearl Vision, and a vision insurance company called iMed, that distinction stops meaning much to a shopper. Licensing is the piece almost nobody mentions. Glasses branded Armani, Chanel, Prada, Tiffany, Versace, or Ralph Lauren were manufactured under license by EssilorLuxottica, and Warby Parker co-founder Neil Blumenthal has explained the mechanics. The conglomerate designs and produces the product, then pays the fashion house roughly 10 to 15% for permission to apply the logo. A proposed class action accused EssilorLuxottica and 48 other companies of conspiring to inflate eyewear prices by as much as 1,000%. The company answered in a court filing without much diplomacy. Quote, "That is not an antitrust violation, it is good business," end quote. Judge Mary Kay Visco-Seal dismissed the case on September 26, 2025, finding that plaintiffs had failed to define plausibly the market they claimed was monopolized. That theory has now been tested in federal court, and it lost. Tariffs made the picture stranger. By April of 2025, according to the Vision Council, Chinese plastic eyeglass frames carried a combined tariff near 155%, and Chinese suppliers flooded American TikTok feeds, urging viewers to bypass the duties and order factory direct. Supply chain specialists told CNN those accounts were highly unlikely to be genuine suppliers for the brands they named, since legitimate manufacturers typically sign non-disclosure agreements. The Supreme Court then ruled 6-3 on February 20th, 2026, that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act grants the president no authority to impose tariffs at all. None of it killed the giant. 2025 delivered the strongest year in EssilorLuxottica's history, with revenue reaching 28.49 billion euros, up 11.2% at constant exchange rates, and management calling it the first year of annual double-digit sales growth the company had ever recorded. The share price told a different story. Shares peaked in November of 2025 near 150 billion euros in market value, then surrendered more than 40% within 6 months, down to about 86 billion. And by mid-August of 2026, the stock had shed 39% for the year, ranking second worst on the entire CAC 40. The explanation came from the company itself. Speaking at the annual meeting on April 28, 2026, Chief Executive Francesco Milleri listed American tariffs, a weak dollar, spreading military conflicts, competition in smart glasses, and investors failing to grasp the expansion into medical technology. Cheap Chinese frames appear nowhere on that list. What appears instead is the development almost nobody anticipated, which is that glasses stopped being glasses. More than 7 million AI glasses left EssilorLuxottica in 2025, and gross margin dropped 260 basis points, attributed to tariffs and to the cost of those AI glasses. A company that spent 40 years perfecting the economics of a molded plastic frame now competes in consumer electronics, where margins run thinner. Those competitors are Chinese, which the headline gets right for entirely the wrong reasons. Rokeed, Alibaba, Xiaomi, and now Huawei have all entered AI glasses, and Rokeed claimed 3.9% of the market last year while topping JD.com's sales rankings for 3 consecutive months. Global General Manager Zoro Xiao put the strategy in one sentence. Quote, AI glasses must first be an exceptional pair of glasses, end quote. Here is where all of it lands. The $3 glasses are genuine, and Danyang really does produce half the world's lenses with 50,000 workers in a city most Americans have never heard of. Between that factory and your face, a licensing fee, a brand name, a retail lease, and an insurance network all get stacked on, which explains why your optical shop charges $300 instead of $8. The company at the center of that stack is not American, not legally a monopoly by the ruling of a federal judge, and not dead. A 40-year empire built on owning the brands, the stores, and the insurance discovered that the product it dominated is turning into a computer. And on that ground, the moat it spent 4 decades digging holds no water. The $3 glasses ended nothing. They simply made it very difficult to keep pretending a molded plastic frame was ever worth $300. And what is actually draining the valuation is the thing that frame is turning into next.